Anna was sweeping the living room, the soft hum of the vacuum echoing through her quiet townhouse, when the sunlight caught the dust particles floating lazily in the air, reminding her that the house had been neglected ever since her breakup, a breakup that left her world tilted and hollow. She moved from room to room, tidying up shelves, arranging books, fluffing pillows, and wiping away fingerprints from the windows, as if by cleaning the house she could clean her life too, put the pieces back together in some small way. The scent of lemon cleaner filled the air, mixing with the faint aroma of coffee she had brewed earlier, and for a moment, she felt a small sense of peace, a rare pause from the storm of emotions that had haunted her for weeks. As she knelt to polish the coffee table, her thoughts wandered to the neighbor across the hall, Mark, a man she had known in passing for years, always polite, always friendly, but distant enough that real conversations had never happened. She wondered what his life was like behind closed doors, what struggles or quiet joys he might be hiding. A sharp knock at the door startled her, causing her heart to jump. It was not the usual casual knock of someone borrowing sugar or returning a borrowed book. It was hesitant, almost nervous, and somehow personal, as if it carried its own heartbeat. Anna paused, her hands still on the table, and let out a small breath before opening the door to reveal Mark standing there, his posture awkward, his hands nervously tugging at the edge of his jacket, his eyes avoiding hers for a fraction of a second before meeting them with an intensity that made her catch her breath. "Hi, Anna," he said, voice low and tentative, almost like he was stepping into uncharted territory. "I know this is unexpected. I hope I'm not bothering you, but can we talk for a few minutes?" The way he spoke made her heart thump with a strange mixture of curiosity and anxiety, and despite the warning bells in her mind, she found herself nodding, stepping aside to let him in, the door closing behind him with a soft click that felt heavier than usual, like it was sealing them into a moment suspended outside of time. They moved into the living room, where sunlight spilled across the carpet, catching the edges of the furniture and painting the room in warm hues, and Anna offered him a cup of tea, a simple gesture that somehow seemed like the right thing in that fragile, suspended space. As Mark sat down, shifting uncomfortably on the couch, Anna noticed the subtle tension in his posture, the way his fingers twitched slightly as he clutched his cup, and she realized that he had something important to say, something that was clearly weighing on him more than casual neighborly conversation. I didn't mean to come over like this," he began, his voice faltering for a moment, "but I needed to talk to someone, and I thought, maybe you could understand." Anna felt her chest tighten at the words, sensing the raw vulnerability beneath them, the quiet admission of loneliness and emotional fatigue that mirrored her own feelings in ways she hadn't anticipated. She sat down across from him, her tea warm in her hands, and listened as he explained that life at home had been complicated lately, that he felt unseen, unheard, as if the routines of marriage and daily responsibilities had eroded the connection he once had with his wife. Anna could see the sincerity in his eyes, the quiet desperation in his tone, and though a part of her knew it was complicated territory, she also felt an undeniable pull, a recognition of shared human loneliness, a longing for someone who could truly see you. Then, almost as if afraid of the confession, he leaned forward slightly and added, "I think about you sometimes, not in a careless way, but you have a way of noticing people, seeing them, that I don't experience anywhere else." The words struck Anna with a mix of shock and strange delight, a gentle ache that made her stomach flutter. For a moment, time seemed to slow, the background noise of the city muffled, the sunlight softening around them, leaving only the two of them in a fragile bubble of honesty and emotion. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Should she respond? Was this wrong? Was it dangerous? Yet, despite all the reasons to retreat, she stayed, rooted by curiosity, empathy, and the magnetic pull of someone who was suddenly closer than she had imagined. Mark's eyes held a mixture of longing and hesitation, and when he looked away for a brief moment, Anna felt the weight of unspoken words, the fragile balance of attraction and morality, the complicated human emotions that could not be easily untangled. The moment stretched, filled with tension and possibility, until he finally muttered, "I shouldn't have said that. I just needed to tell someone." Anna's hands shook slightly as she set her cup down, feeling the gravity of the confession, realizing that what had started as an ordinary morning of cleaning had turned into an encounter that could change everything, awaken feelings she had tried to bury, and open the door to a connection she hadn't expected. And as she sat there, heart pounding, she realized that this small, hesitant knock had brought with it not just a neighbor, but a possibility, a flicker of something tender, emotional, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of a story neither of them could have predicted. After that first unexpected visit, Anna found herself thinking about Mark more than she cared to admit, the memory of his hesitant smile and the honesty in his eyes lingering in her mind long after he left. A few days later, he returned, claiming he had a small question about some gardening tools, but the way he looked at her, the slight tension in his shoulders, suggested there was more than a simple question on his mind. Anna felt a strange mixture of anticipation and nervousness as she invited him in, offering tea again, the warm cups becoming a quiet ritual that allowed them to share the weight of their thoughts without speaking too much. Mark settled onto the couch, fidgeting with the edge of his sleeve, and Anna noticed how his usual confident demeanor was replaced with vulnerability, an openness that made her heart ache. "I didn't mean to bother you again," he started, voice low and careful, "but I needed someone to talk to, someone who might understand what I'm going through. Things at home, they've been difficult, and I feel lost sometimes." Anna nodded, understanding more than she let on, because she had known that hollow feeling, the emptiness that comes when life seems to move around you while you remain stuck in pain. She listened as he described the loneliness that had settled in his life, the quiet disappointment, and the distance that had grown between him and his wife, the words tumbling out in fits of hesitation and emotion, and with every sentence, Anna felt her own chest tighten, a strange empathy mingling with a curiosity she could not ignore. He paused, looking into her eyes with a mixture of fear and hope, and said softly, "I've been thinking about you, about the way you notice things, the way you listen without judgment. I never realized how much that matters until I met you, until now." His words sent a shiver through Anna, a combination of longing and caution, because she recognized the danger of these feelings but could not ignore the warmth they brought to a heart that had been so cold. They talked for hours, not in a loud or dramatic way, but in quiet, sincere sentences that revealed who they truly were, their fears, regrets, and hopes for the future, each word weaving a connection neither of them expected. Anna shared her own heartbreaks, carefully avoiding the painful details, but enough to show her vulnerability, and Mark listened, offering support, understanding, and a rare kind of comfort that felt intimate without being inappropriate. The rain began tapping against the window, soft and steady, creating a cocoon around them, and as they spoke, the world outside seemed to vanish, leaving only the two of them suspended in a private bubble of trust and tentative attraction. Mark reached for his cup, hands trembling slightly, and said, almost as if afraid of being judged, "I know this is complicated, what I feel, what I'm saying. I shouldn't feel this way, yet I do, and I needed to tell someone, even if it's only for a moment." Anna's own heart raced, her mind torn between morality and emotion, yet she could not deny the connection she felt, the way her chest warmed at his words, the way the room seemed brighter, calmer, and yet charged with something fragile and electric. She leaned back, sipping her tea slowly, her eyes never leaving his, silently acknowledging the truth between them, the shared recognition of longing and loneliness, a delicate dance of hearts that were cautious but undeniably drawn to each other. They spoke of dreams they had abandoned, hopes they had kept hidden, and regrets they carried quietly, each revelation bringing them closer, building trust in the silence between sentences, in the glances, in the way hands hovered near cups, near each other, without touching, yet speaking volumes. Mark finally sighed, a mix of relief and tension, admitting, "I feel alive when I talk to you, like I haven't in a long time. I don't know if that's right or fair, but it's the truth." Anna felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from the raw honesty, the intimacy of emotion that did not require grand gestures or dramatic confessions, just truth, quiet and profound. She responded softly, her voice trembling slightly, "I feel it too, more than I expected, more than I should, perhaps, but it's real, and I can't ignore it." The words hung in the air, fragile yet heavy, a promise and a warning all at once, and as the rain fell harder against the window, they both realized that something had shifted between them, something powerful yet delicate, capable of bringing joy, comfort, and inevitable heartache if mishandled. In that room, over simple cups of tea, amidst the mundane act of cleaning and small talk, they discovered a connection that neither time nor circumstance had prepared them for, a bond built on understanding, honesty, and a subtle, growing attraction that was emotional more than physical, profound in its restraint and beauty. Mark stayed a little longer that day, the conversation flowing naturally, interspersed with silence that was comfortable rather than awkward, each pause a chance to breathe, to feel, and to recognize the pull between them. When he finally stood to leave, the goodbye was quiet, weighted with unspoken emotions, a tentative acknowledgement of something neither of them could fully name yet, leaving Anna staring after him as the door closed softly behind him, a sense of anticipation and longing settling over her like a warm blanket. She returned to her chores, but the tasks felt lighter, her mind alive with thoughts of him, of their conversation, of the fragile hope that maybe, despite complications and boundaries, two people could find solace in each other's presence, even if only in moments like this. And as the evening shadows lengthened, Anna realized that life had a way of surprising you, that the heart could be drawn to unexpected places, and that sometimes, sharing truth, even in small doses, could open a door to something new, something beautiful, and something worth exploring carefully, with patience, honesty, and courage. Days turned into weeks, and Anna found herself thinking about Mark more often than she expected, replaying their conversations in her mind, remembering the way his voice had softened when he admitted his loneliness, the way his eyes seemed to search for understanding, the gentle tremor in his hands when he spoke of things he could not share with anyone else. She noticed herself looking forward to the small moments when he might stop by under some pretext, borrowing a tool, asking about her garden, or simply passing by with a friendly smile, and each time her heart skipped, a quiet mix of excitement and caution stirring within her. Their encounters remained casual on the surface, polite and neighborly, yet beneath the ordinary words lay a depth of emotion neither of them dared fully name, a silent understanding of shared longing and the quiet ache of hearts that had been hurt before. Anna discovered a strange comfort in Mark's presence, the way he listened without judgment, how he seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, her opinions, her feelings, and with every conversation, she felt a connection growing, subtle yet undeniable, that made her chest tighten with a mixture of anticipation and fear. One rainy afternoon, the sky dark and the soft patter of rain on the windows creating a cocoon around her living room, Mark stayed longer than usual, and Anna could feel the air between them thick with unspoken words, the silence charged yet tender, filled with the warmth of human connection that had nothing to do with grand gestures or romantic clichés but everything to do with honesty, vulnerability, and emotional closeness. "I can't stop thinking about what I said the other day," Mark murmured, his voice barely audible over the rain, leaning forward slightly as if afraid to make his feelings too visible, yet unable to hold them back. "I feel something I shouldn't, something complicated, and yet I can't ignore it." Anna's heart ached with recognition because she felt the same pull, the same dangerous yet irresistible longing that drew her toward him despite the complications of life, morality, and circumstance, and she realized that both of them were standing on the edge of something fragile yet profoundly human, the kind of connection that could heal or hurt, depending on how carefully it was handled. They talked quietly, sharing stories of heartbreak, disappointment, and hope, each word revealing a little more of who they were, not in a way that demanded commitment or rushed intimacy, but in a way that built trust, a sense of safety, and an emotional bond that neither had expected to find. The rain outside became a gentle rhythm accompanying their conversation, a backdrop that softened the world and allowed them to be present in the moment, to speak honestly, and to feel the comfort of being truly seen, something they both had longed for but rarely found in others. Mark reached for his cup, hands shaking slightly, and admitted that he had not felt this alive in years, that he had been weighed down by routine, obligations, and emotional distance, and that speaking with Anna, sharing these truths, had lifted a burden he had carried silently for too long. Anna listened, her own heart responding with empathy, warmth, and a quiet thrill, realizing that she too had felt a sense of revival in his presence, a reminder that human connection could be tender, meaningful, and emotionally stirring without needing grand declarations or reckless actions. Their conversation moved fluidly, touching on dreams they had abandoned, opportunities they had missed, fears they carried quietly, and regrets that sometimes haunted their nights. Each admission was a brick laid in the foundation of trust, a gentle weaving of hearts that were fragile but capable of hope. Anna found herself laughing softly at one of Mark's stories, the sound surprising her with its ease, a release of tension she hadn't realized she carried, and she noticed the way Mark's eyes softened as he smiled back. A quiet moment of intimacy that said more than words could, a silent acknowledgement of the emotional connection deepening between them. They shared a long silence at one point, the kind that is comfortable because both parties understand the gravity of what exists unspoken, a shared recognition of longing, attraction, and the beauty of simply being heard and understood. Mark finally broke the silence, voice low and sincere. "I feel alive when I talk to you. I don't know if that's right, but it's the truth," and Anna felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from the purity of emotion, the honesty that was rare in a world that often demanded facades. She responded softly, her voice trembling slightly, "I feel it too, more than I expected, more than I should, yet it feels real, and I can't deny it." And in that moment, the rain outside seemed to fall harder, drumming against the windows as if punctuating the fragile, powerful truth they shared. The hours passed unnoticed, the room illuminated by the soft gray light of the storm outside, their conversation weaving a tapestry of emotion that was tender, cautious, and deeply human. Every glance, every gesture, every slight shift in posture carried meaning, a subtle language of the heart that only they could understand. When Mark finally stood to leave, the goodbye was quiet, weighted with the tension of what had been shared and the anticipation of what might come next, each knowing that their lives had shifted in small but profound ways, that the ordinary days of neighborly visits had transformed into something emotionally significant, a bond that promised comfort, understanding, and perhaps the beginnings of love. Anna watched him go, the door closing softly behind him, and she felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear, longing and caution, knowing that this connection was delicate, powerful, and entirely unexpected, a reminder that life could surprise the heart, that the simplest encounters could carry the weight of emotion and possibility, and that sometimes the quietest moments, shared over tea and conversation, could become the foundation for something deeply meaningful, tender, and unforgettable. Weeks had passed since that rainy afternoon, and Anna and Mark's quiet connection had grown stronger, a delicate thread of trust, longing, and understanding weaving through their lives without the need for grand gestures or reckless declarations, their encounters remaining carefully measured yet charged with unspoken emotion. Every time Mark appeared at her door, whether for a borrowed tool or a casual question, the air between them hummed with anticipation, a magnetic pull that neither dared fully name but could not ignore, and Anna found herself planning her days with the hope of seeing him, the excitement and warmth lingering in her chest long after he had left. They shared ordinary moments that felt extraordinary, fixing a loose hinge together, tending to her small garden, laughing at a shared memory, or simply sitting in silence with the comfort of each other's presence, each encounter layering another piece of intimacy onto the fragile structure of their friendship and attraction. One evening, as the sun dipped low, spilling golden light across the living room, Mark lingered longer than usual, and Anna could see the quiet vulnerability in his eyes, the way he shifted slightly on the couch as if unsure whether to speak or remain silent, each movement loaded with emotion and restrained desire. "I don't know what the future holds," he began softly, voice gentle but firm, "but I do know that being here, with you, has made me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years, and I don't want to lose that, even if the path forward is uncertain." Anna's heart thumped with recognition and relief because she felt the same fragile hope and cautious joy that had been growing quietly in her own heart, and she realized that this connection, delicate yet undeniable, was perhaps the first truly honest thing she had experienced in a long time. They talked for hours that evening, not with urgency but with a steady, flowing rhythm, sharing dreams, fears, and the small disappointments life had handed them, each word a thread binding them closer, each glance a silent confession of trust and emotional intimacy. Mark admitted, with a mixture of shame and sincerity, that he had never felt this level of understanding and care from anyone in years, that the routines and expectations of daily life had left him emotionally numb until Anna's presence began to awaken feelings he thought he had buried, and Anna, in turn, shared her own stories of loneliness, heartbreak, and longing, careful yet honest, realizing that in Mark's company, she could be herself without pretense or fear. The evening deepened, the golden light giving way to soft twilight, and they both sat in quiet reflection, aware of the gravity of their bond, the complicated emotions, and the unspoken limitations, yet grateful for the sanctuary they had found in each other. Mark reached out briefly, his hand brushing against hers, a fleeting touch that spoke volumes, and Anna felt warmth flood through her, a mixture of comfort, desire, and the thrill of emotional closeness that neither had anticipated but both craved. They spoke of the complications that surrounded them, the realities of life, the presence of others, the moral boundaries they could not ignore, but even in acknowledging these limits, they discovered a space for tenderness, care, and emotional honesty, a rare and precious connection that was built on respect as much as desire. As the night deepened, Mark stood to leave, pausing at the door to look back at Anna, eyes filled with emotion, lips curved in a small, vulnerable smile that conveyed more than words could, gratitude, longing, and the quiet hope that this bond, though delicate, could endure in its own way. Anna watched him go, heart swelling with a mix of exhilaration and fear, knowing that this relationship was unconventional, complex, and uncharted, yet beautiful in its honesty and depth. A reminder that life sometimes offers unexpected gifts when hearts remain open and brave. After he left, she returned to her living room, the faint glow of the streetlights outside casting long shadows, and she realized that something inside her had shifted, a gentle transformation brought on by emotional connection, trust, and the tentative beginnings of love. She reflected on the months that had passed, on the ordinary moments that had turned extraordinary, and on the profound truth that human hearts could find solace, hope, and joy even in complicated circumstances, as long as they dared to be honest and vulnerable. Anna understood that this connection with Mark was not about rushing into declarations or ignoring responsibilities. It was about presence, understanding, and shared humanity, about two people finding in each other a safe space to heal, to hope, and to feel alive again. In the weeks that followed, they continued to meet in these quiet, tender ways, building a bond rooted in emotional intimacy, empathy, and the recognition of each other's pain and resilience, each encounter reinforcing the quiet promise that they would care for each other thoughtfully and sincerely. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Mark whispered, "Whatever happens next, I want you to know that being with you, even like this, has changed me, has made me believe in something I had forgotten." Anna smiled, tears brimming, her voice soft but steady. "I feel it too. Maybe the world is complicated, maybe the future is uncertain, but right here, right now, this is real, and it's ours." The air between them was thick with emotion, tender yet exhilarating, a delicate balance of longing and restraint, hope and reality, and in that quiet moment, they both understood that life could be beautiful, complicated, and deeply moving, that human connection could heal wounds, ignite hope, and awaken feelings long thought lost, and that sometimes, the most unexpected encounters could open the door to the heart in ways nothing else could. And so, as the golden twilight faded into soft night, Anna and Mark sat together, hearts aligned in quiet understanding, aware of the challenges ahead but confident that this bond, fragile, tender, and filled with emotional honesty, was a gift worth cherishing, nurturing, and protecting, a love that was not reckless but real, not urgent but profound, and not simple but deeply human.